On today's show, the Warriors played their first game during Draymond Green's indefinite suspension and lost to the Clippers. Based on what we've seen, can the Warriors survive without him? Plus, are we believing in the Clippers as contenders? Also, Nikola Jokic bounces back, and the two best teams in the league keep winning. All of that and more on today's Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA. Wes Goldberg here with Adam Mares. However you might be tuning in on YouTube, Odyssey, or your favorite podcast app, thanks so much for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use the code LockedOnNBA, all lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100. We'll get to a bunch of games from around the league, including a bounce back by the Joker. But let's start in Los Angeles, where the Warriors played their first game during Draymond Green's indefinite suspension Thursday against the Clippers. They trailed by as many as 16 points in the second half, but mounted a spirited comeback and cut the lead to one possession late in the game. But Norman Powell scored 10 points in the final 5 minutes, getting to the basket for layup after layup, as Golden State's defense couldn't hold up in the paint without Draymond. And the Clippers got the win. No Paul George for them, out with a hip injury. Amir Coffey stepped into his place in the starting lineup. He had a huge game. Kawhi had 27 points. Harden had 28 points and 15 assists. Norman Powell finished with 21. The Warriors got 30 points from Klay Thompson, but they did bench Andrew Wiggins for this game, opting to go with the rookie Brandon Podzinski in the starting lineup. Jonathan Kuminga started in Draymond's place, but the Clippers get the win, 121-113. The Clippers have won 6 in a row. Adam, I mentioned a lot of different things there.
Yeah, that was a lot.
What stood out to you about this one?
I mean, for me, you have to start with James Harden. He's not a system player, Wes. He is the system.
I've heard that somewhere.
Yeah, 28.7 rebounds, 15 assists. Those are old school James Harden numbers. Those are James Harden, who is the main guy in Houston numbers. It's kind of funny thinking about all the various superstars that are on this team and who has to take a front seat, who has to take a back seat. You pull one guy out, Paul George, from the equation, and James Harden goes back to kind of looking like his old self. To be honest, these are more Philadelphia James Harden numbers, yes, because 28 points is a lot, but he only took 12 shots.
Yep.
Mostly he was a facilitator and gets the job done. So, I mean, I guess I start there. The Clippers very quietly have been playing phenomenal. Their starting five has been phenomenal, and James Harden starting to look, dare I say, phenomenal.
The 3-point shot was there for him tonight, 5 of 6. Some of the step back variety, right? And if you want to talk about old school Harden, there was some of it there. My starting spot with the Clippers in terms of opinions is I'm out. I'm just out on them. I don't believe in them.
It's a good starting spot.
Yeah. I'm out. You really have to talk me into the Clippers. Like I'm probably like the last person to buy into the Clippers, but I feel like I'm almost there. Kawhi
really
great.
Dude, you say, hold up a second. I have to cut you out. They've only played well for like 11 games. It hasn't been that long.
Kawhi's
so that
healthy.
Was not a lot of convincing. He is healthy. He does look very good.
He's played every game this season. The James
is that
Harden
true?
thing is
wow.
It's true. James Harden, like he's kind of exactly what they need, and it looked clunky to start. But of course, they were also starting Russell Westbrook in that lineup. But since they swapped Terrence Mann into that starting lineup and took Westbrook out, the Clippers are 11-3. They've won 6 in a row. That defense is legit. With that starting lineup, again, no Paul George tonight, but when they do have Paul George, and with that starting lineup with Terrence Mann in there, they have a defensive rating of 106.1. That would be the best defense in the NBA. They have a net rating of almost plus 14 points per 100 possessions. The offense is very good. This team has all the makings of it, and at first it was clunky because it was like, all right, is it the Kawhi offense, or we kind of run everything out of the post and he kind of does his Kawhi thing, or are we going to do the James Harden pick and roll thing? And they were kind of just doing the your turn, my turn thing. It's a lot less of that. They're focused on getting out in transition. Their transition points have gone through the roof since these guys have gotten together and kind of found a groove. They're well coached defensively. They're in the right spots. They just made big play after big play down the stretch against this Warriors team. They did not get rattled when the Warriors came back and narrowed it to a 1-point game late in the game. They just kept making plays. And guys like Amir Coffey, Terrence Mann, Norman Powell, they just get like the easiest buckets they've ever gotten. And, they're a big team and the Warriors are a small team, and that helped them just kind of get into the paint and dominate in that way. And that's why they ultimately won this game. But I don't know. I'm not saying I'm in on the Clippers, but I'm just like, I'm starting to rethink my position a little bit.
I always love, like, you just threw Amir Coffey gets buckets. I mean, tonight he did 18 points. I was looking at his game logs as you were talking. He has 2 points in the last month coming into tonight. But I got to be honest with you, kind of brilliant move. Like sometimes it's nice when you feel good about your starting lineup and you have an opportunity to bring in a bit player, especially somebody that's been on the shelf, and you get him out there and he goes for 18 points, 4 rebounds, and an assist tonight. Didn't shoot the ball well, 6 of 15, but kind of cool to see a guy like
the
that.
Clippers play-by-play guy. I didn't realize that they do all the coffee puns, but he made a 3 from the corner and he called it a triple espresso shot, and I kind of like that.
That triple espresso, that's very good. Maybe Daniel Tice obviously getting there and making an impact, and then Norman Powell, 9 of 13. I feel like he's the biggest of the X factors. I mean, I don't know him and Terrence Mann, but he's, to me, I've seen enough Clippers games where he has a really good game and they win. Like he's just an extra guy that can provide a boost, and then closing out the game obviously tonight with the buckets he had. So he's a guy that I think kind of swings things for him.
The Clippers have put together some quality wins here too. When you look even beyond this Warriors team, yeah. I don't know if the Warriors count as a quality win anymore. I don't know what to think of them. But they beat they beat the Kings a couple nights ago. The Kings are really good. They got a win over the Nuggets the other night. They've now beaten the Warriors twice in a week and a half. They're on a 4-game homestand right now. They're about to wrap it up against the Knicks this weekend, but or actually Saturday night. It would be this weekend. So we'll see what happens there. But I don't know. Like when you look at how they stack up with the rest of the Western Conference, like I still have Denver as my number 1 team. I know Minnesota won again tonight. We'll get to them later. They're very good, but I've still got Denver as my top tier. And I really do feel like it's wide open once you get past the Nuggets. And then if it's just one team that you're really worried about in the West, like one injury, boom, the whole conference is open in the playoffs. I don't know. Yeah. Like, I feel like I hate that I'm doing this, Adam. I really hate it. Like, I've really
too early. It's too early, man.
I love to hate the Clippers. I love to doubt the Clippers. It's kind of one of my favorite things. Yeah. Tell me, bring me back. Bring me back to the dark side here.
So you were just talking about their win profile, right? Okay, they beat the Warriors. We should talk about the Warriors here coming up, but
let's do it. Let's just do the Warriors.
Yeah, it's not that good of a win. They beat Portland, they beat Utah, they beat the Warriors again, in this run. So like some of these wins are not that impressive. San Antonio 2 times, like, all right, there's a couple good wins sprinkled in there. Let's give it a little bit more time. But on the other side of things is the important part here, because Golden State Warriors, you get a 30 piece, an 8 for 12 game for Klay Thompson. I think if you're trying to be an optimist, you're excited, because when was the last time Klay Thompson's had one of these games? For it to come in this moment when they really needed him is sort of encouraging. But the flip side of that is he gave you 8 of 12 from 3 and you still lose. That's kind of more or less how I would look at it.
In this game, Steph had a bad game. 3 for 13 from 3-point range. 17,
can't survive it.
17
Literally
points.
can't survive it.
Can't survive it. And when you think about the Warriors, right? Like the scariest thing when you watch a Warriors game is they get an offensive rebound and then you immediately look for where Steph is, and somehow he's always open and he always gets a 3-pointer off of an offensive rebound. It's been the most terrifying thing in the NBA for the last decade. Yeah. And in this game, down the stretch, 4th quarter, game within a couple of possessions, there's a loose ball. Klay Thompson recovers the ball, tosses it to Steph. Steph misses. Okay, that happens sometimes. It's not a big deal. Podziemski comes in, again, starting in place for Wiggins, grabs the offensive rebound. So now they get 2 offensive rebounds. Ball goes back to Steph. Now, that's like giving Tom Brady 2 chances to win the game. You're going to lose, right? Steph shoots it, misses it again. And I'm just like, my jaw dropped. I was like, I don't know that that's ever happened in the history of this planet. And that's the Warriors now. Like, they're just a little bit toothless now. They're not as scary, and it feels like they're human, and it doesn't feel like other teams are scared of them anymore. And the whole Draymond thing is not even like, it's just sad at this point. Like, you listen to the way that other players around the league have talked about it, and I don't know. It's just,
Yeah.
It's not the same old Warriors.
Well, let me ask you this one. Kind of a weird move to put Wiggins on the bench today. Because I mean, I know he's been terrible, but like you're not just shaking up your lineup because Draymond's out. Then you make another shakeup to it. You say you like it. I mean, tonight he goes for 9 points and 3 rebounds, 4 of 9, gives you 5 fouls in 22 minutes. So you like it? Is it just because you're so like he's been bad for a year and a half now, or?
Well, part of that, and then it's also Steve Kerr just being like, I'm done. Like, Draymond suspended indefinitely. You're not playing well, and this guy's playing better, and he's a rookie. So win your job back. And the thing with Wiggins over the years, and this even goes back to his high school days, because when I used to cover the Warriors, I did a profile on him, and I went like kind of deep on this whole like, does he care? Is he motivated? And that seems to be the issue with him this year. And sometimes he just doesn't.
So down bad.
Sometimes he just doesn't care. But the coaches that he's had over the years, again, even dating back since high school, will challenge him. And that's sort of the way to light a fire under him, and he'll respond. Now, obviously, he did not do it tonight, and he did not win that job back. But I kind of like Steve Kerr just being like, you know what, you're not good enough to just kind of coast and play this way. You gotta earn that job. And Pods has played better than him this year, and he's won the job.
Yeah. Bottom line, I know this feels incendiary or whatever, but I just would be so surprised if the Warriors survive this Draymond absence. First of all, we don't know how long it is. Second of all, you look at the standings; they're already 3 games back. Like not a little, but not a game back. It's early. Well, things will settle out. You're already 3 games back, which again is not a lot of games. It's just so early in the season to be 3 games back. They are closer.
3 games back of the play-in.
Of the play-in, sorry, of the play-in,
yeah. Even the context here.
Not even the playoffs, the play-in.
Yeah.
But even go past that, they are closer to the Jazz than they are to the Suns, and 1 spot above them. And then they are actually closer to the Blazers at the 2nd worst record in the Western Conference than they are to the Phoenix Suns. Like, I just don't see them surviving it, man. It's crazy. Yeah. It's almost sad, but that's how I feel.
I'm with you. Talking about out on the Warriors. Nikola Jokic, not out. He bounced back from a weird stretch. We'll talk about that next. Plus, are we believing in the Bulls? That's next. I'm Locked On NBA. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by Dave. Dave is the banking app that's leveling the financial playing field. At one time or another, especially even the holidays, we all need a little financial help. That's why Dave is great. Dave can get you cash when you need a hand between paychecks and can help you build credit by settling extra cash advances on time. When you download Dave, you can get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less. No credit check, no late fees. It's part of Dave's extra cash account. Advance the money you need with no interest and then settle up later. Download Dave today at dave.com/lockedonnba. That's dave.com/lockedonnba. And you can get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less. No credit check, no late fees. Download the Dave app now or go to dave.com/lockedonnba. For terms and conditions, go to dave.com/legal. Eligibility criteria and instant transfer fees apply. Banking service provided by Evolve, member FDIC. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, let's talk about your game in Denver, Adam, where the Nuggets beat the Nets 124-101. Nikola Jokic, after a couple of uncharacteristically bad games and a weird ejection in Chicago, got back to his usual self. 26 points on 8 for 12 shooting, 15 rebounds, 10 assists, an easy win. The Nuggets cruise. What did you see from Jokic in this one?
I mean, the same thing you see every time from Jokic minus 2 times this year. But
right, exactly.
I mean, completely dominant. The Nets are coming in. They got a great win yesterday in Phoenix over the debut of the Big Three in Phoenix. So they're coming on a road back-to-back with travel as part of that West Coast trip. And they kind of look like it. You know, Denver took their will from them really quickly, got a big lead, and just never stopped sort of punching. But Jokic, 8 of 12 from the field. He missed 2 threes. He missed the floater, but he dominated, plus 21. Did not play the fourth quarter, 26, 15, and 10 from him. But the story to me, like, you know, obviously it's a team I cover. The story for me is a couple things, Wes. Denver has played the most games of anybody in the NBA as of right now. More games than anyone. Chicago, the only other team that has 26 games. They play more back-to-backs than anyone in the NBA. They have the fewest back-to-backs going forward. No team has as few as they do. They have the easiest strength of schedule going forward. They had a very condensed, very difficult first 25 games. They now enter a sort of new phase. They missed Jamal Murray. He got hurt very early in the year, has missed almost every game since then. He's back, and they just kind of look back. Like they had a tough early part. They look like they're back, and they look dominant.
We saw this at the end of last regular season for like a month, and Denver was like, "Oh, we've got the playoff seed,
Right?
we're good." And like they're a team that could take their foot off the gas, and I don't care. Right? There's other teams in the league where they took the foot off the gas. And I'm like, like, is that gas pedal still there when you look to press on it? And for the Nuggets, I'm not that concerned about that. Right? Jokic is just dominant. Like, and so when he has 2 bad games, I don't blink. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Right? If he gets ejected for a weird thing, like that's kind of weird, but it doesn't like, there's no existential crisis, where it's like every Warriors loss, like we just talked about.
Right.
It feels like the world is ending in San Francisco. But I also want to talk about Denver's bench, because that was sort of the issue coming into the season. Right, not an issue, but the big question, right? Reggie Jackson's been awesome for them. Jamal Murray was back tonight, 16 points on 7 of 15 shooting. Yeah. He looked good. 3 steals in this one. Yeah. It wasn't like he didn't blow up the box score, but I thought he was
first half.
Right.
First half he looked incredible, but yeah, tailed off. I mean, this was a blowout win.
Yeah. But Reggie Jackson was starting in his place, comes back off the bench. He looks good with 12 points. Peyton Watson scored. Like, man,
this is for people. For him? People, I've been telling you, Wes, this is a guy to kind of pay attention to. He reminds me a lot of Herb Jones defensively. Offensively, he's a little bit of a different player. He kind of is what's below a jack of all trades, right? Like he has a foundation of skills of all trades.
Gym of all trades.
There you go. But he's a rookie, a redshirt rookie, basically played a couple, 2 or 3 games last year, but he really looks impressive defensively. And tonight he had a good offensive game. He looked like it's kind of wild to say, but he looks like a future 2-way star. Ooh. Not a superstar or anything like that, but like a 2-way player. He looked really good tonight. Best game of his career.
Give me the Julian Strother elevator pitch here, because he's a guy who's worked his way into the rotation. 6'6" guard. He's got like a 6'9", 6'10" wing. He's long.
He's long. He's tall.
Yeah. And I like his energy. And I think on a team like Denver, like sometimes that's it. That's just like, hey, just be out there and just work harder than everybody else, and you're gonna get minutes, especially on a team that's sort of again kind of shuffling through their depth. I kind of did the elevator pitch, but you'll do a better one.
Well, here's the first thing to know is that Calvin Booth, every GM in the NBA wants to add length. Calvin Booth is a zealot about it. He's only adding players with length. So Julian Strother, a shooting guard at 6'7". That's a really long shooting guard. He's got a great shot, super quick, a little quirky, like not almost a Kevin Martin-esque shot to him. Like it is a little bit strange to it, but he's really good at it. He's got a great floater. And the thing that's going to make him a player is 1, his length, and 2, he has an incredible basketball IQ. Tonight, there was a great play with Julian Strother. Tonight, Denver running some kind of action, and Julian's pointing to Reggie Jackson where the read is. He's kind of like pointing out, like, hey, do this, go over here and do this. And he was right. He just has a great feel for the game. For a rookie, he's an old rookie, but for a rookie, he's really, really has a high IQ and a great feel and obviously a great shot.
Let's go to Miami, where the Bulls beat the Heat 124-116 with 4 different Bulls players scoring at least 23 points. They were led by one Kobe White, who had 26 points and 11 assists with 0 turnovers, pulling the Halliburton out. He's played great since Zach LaVine went down. The Bulls have played great since Zach LaVine went down. They've won 5 of their last 7. The only games they've lost were against Denver and Milwaukee, finals.
That's good losses.
Right, yeah. They're still just 10-16 because they got off to such a bad start. But at the risk of looking too far ahead, the bottom of the play-in tournament could still be in play. There are regular Warriors, Adam.
Oh, my gosh. What are we doing here?
But I've been really impressed with what I've seen Kobe White. I want to talk about him. I want to talk about the Bulls a little bit. This new model that they've showed since LaVine went down with the ankle injury there. Spoelstra, after the game, very polite and complimentary of the Bulls, saying that they, quote, look different lately, end quote. What do you make of Chicago stacking some wins here?
Well, I mean, the first thing I make of it is the team feels like they all sense the opportunity. And it's funny because there's only one player out, right? Zach LaVine. And I don't think this is a thing about, look, I don't love Zach LaVine. I'm not surprised there's a little Ewing theory. You pull him out and all of a sudden team's playing well. But I don't want to blame him. What I would rather say is there feels like it was a team that was rowing in several different directions. Are we trying to win? We've got these win now players. We got some young guys. What are we doing? You pull him out, and all of a sudden Kobe White is having a breakout stretch of games. He doesn't just look like a good young player. It's like coming together for him a little bit. You know, DeMar DeRozan's fitting seamlessly into this rather than the team fitting around them. And then just look at some of the stat line tonight from Aya Dosunmu. Defensive ace. He goes 10 of 12 from the field tonight for 24 points, has 8 rebounds, 5 assists, and a steal. Like that's an all-around game. So for me, it's a team that looks like they have clarity and a freedom and a relaxed vibe to them that it's kind of fun to see. I always like when teams get like a shot of life in them, and they all look like they have a belief in what's happening right now.
They did beat up on some bad teams. They got a win against San Antonio during this streak. The Heat, second night of a back-to-back. No Bam, no Tyler Hero, no Haywood Highsmith. They were just down a bunch of guys. Jimmy Butler didn't look right in the first back-to-back set that he's played all year. But not trying to take anything away from the Bulls. They played well. They have been playing well. And Kobe White looks like that guy that they wanted him to be when they picked him 7 overall in 2019. Yeah. So it's a nice development for him and for the Chicago Bulls. All right.
Hold up. No. We cannot move on without meeting our quota. Jaime Jaquez, 22 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists.
That's right.
There it is. In the loss.
In the loss. That's okay. It's okay. Sometimes you just, can Jaime get some help? That's
can't believe you almost didn't mention it. Come on, man. Yeah, get Jaime help. Come on, people.
Who are the best at being second best? We count down to the weekend next. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They're the easiest, most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. With the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, a league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. For instance, LeBron James plus Travis Kelce at 10.5 combo of 3-pointers made and receptions. PrizePicks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay even if one of your players gets injured, or in the case of Nikola Jokic the other night, for a certain somebody on this podcast, if your player gets ejected in the middle of the game.
Whew, that's a rough one.
The reboot policy saves your entry. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half, does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only DFS platform with an injury insurance policy. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use that code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Before we count down to the weekend, a quick roundup of some of the other action on Thursday night. The Celtics beat the Cavaliers 116-107. Donovan Mitchell had 31 points, but Jason Tatum had 27. Jaylen Brown had 22. The Celtics have now won 6 of their last 7, and they are 12-0 at home. In Dallas, the Timberwolves come back from an early 15-point deficit to beat the Mavericks 119-101. Karl-Anthony Towns had 21 points and 17 rebounds. Naz Reid, a season-high 27 points as the Wolves avoided their first losing streak of the season. They have not lost consecutive games this year. They are now matched with the Celtics for the best record in the NBA. Luka Doncic had 39 points. It's his 9th straight game with at least 30 points, but the Mavericks' 4-game win streak came to an end. And then in Sacramento, we had a battle of the guards, a fun one that came down to the end. De'Aaron Fox had 41 points to lead the Kings to a 128-123 win over the Thunder, who were led by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who scored 43 points. But it's Friday, Adam, which means it's time to count down to the weekend. What do you have for us today?
You said it. Players/teams that are hiding in plain sight at spot number 2. Spot number 2. And we're going to start with this. Free throw percentage. If I were to ask you, who do you think is leading the NBA of qualified players? These are guys that are taking free throws. Who do you think is number 1 in free throw percentage?
It's always Steph Curry.
You are correct. He is number 1. Number 2, Paul George. Paul George having a career year. He is 90 of 97 from the free throw line so far this year. 93%. He's off to a hot start. Nobody would have guessed it. You know, you might have gone Dame. You might have gone some of these other guys. Nope.
I feel like there's crazy takes, right? There's crazy takes in the NBA that exist. But if you were to tell me that you think Paul George is the best player on the Clippers, that would not qualify as a crazy take to me. I'd be fine.
I mean, look, I love Paul George. Nobody loves him more than me. Second one for you. Drives per game. We all know, number 1, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the ultimate drive. That guy's driving head down all game. He gets where he wants to go. Number 2.
I feel like I looked this up. Yeah, is it Cade?
Cade Cunningham, number 2 in drives per game.
Cade Cunningham.
Slight difference in outcome from both of those guys.
I was going to ask you what the points per possession were on that.
It's about 12% higher, I think, field goal percentage on drives from Shai than it is from Cade. But boy, that boy is driving every time. Driving.
He's driving. He doesn't know where he's driving, but he's on the road and he's got miles on the odometer. He's driving.
The longest win streak in the NBA. 3 teams are at 8-2. I think you could probably guess who they are. Minnesota Timberwolves, best record in the NBA. We know that. We just talked about the Clippers. They've kind of been high profile. They've figured it out. They're 8-2. Who else? The Orlando Magic. The Orlando Magic. Sneaky Orlando Magic. 16-7. They've also got the longest, 10. They're also 8-2 last one.
They just keep winning. And I know Paolo Banchero had a little bit of a scare earlier this week, injury-wise, took a hard fall. But, like, they are stacking so many wins now. You just said the record. They're 16-7.
Like,
are we looking at like Sacramento Kings of this year, where it's just like, are they going to just like the Kings just avoid? They stayed relatively healthy and they avoided like a long losing streak all season long. Yeah. I just wonder if that's in the cards for Orlando. I'm not picking them to come out of the East, but they could just be one of the best 3 seeds in the East by the time the season's over.
I could see them being as good as Sacramento, right? Sacramento was a sneaky, were they a 2 seed, I think, last year, 2 or 3, but they were sneaky there. You didn't expect them. You kept waiting all year. They're going to fall off. They're going to fall off. They didn't.
3 seed last year.
I could see that because I believe in the defense. I kind of believe in the connection. That team plays with connection. They don't play selfish.
Mosley's doing a great job there.
And then I could totally see it ending the same way, where it's like, all right, first taste of the playoffs.
Yeah.
You're going to have to take your licks. The best defense in the NBA. This is a high profile. Minnesota Timberwolves all year basically have been in that spot, number 1 defense. But who's number 2?
It's been Orlando for a lot of the season, but I have a feeling it's not anymore.
It's not anymore. It's the Houston Rockets. Wow. The Houston Rockets with the second best defensive rating this year. A little bit surprising.
Jabari Smith Jr. has looked better lately.
That's my guy.
Yeah?
That's my guy. Yeah, I mean, Jaime Jaquez is my guy.
What? How about Jaime? Yeah, we don't talk about Jabari Smith Jr.
I love his game. He's so long, man. He's so long, and he really, I think, again, another guy that I think plays the right way and is going to like mold himself into a great team player.
And I love what they did too with Houston. Just like, all right, let's bring in Fred VanVleet. Let's bring in Dylan Brooks. I think both of them are slightly overrated as players, but there's something to be said about like, let's just have the good guys and they're veterans and they can get guys in order. And what Udoka has done to basically turning them from like the worst transition defense in the league last year to a very good transition defense this year is crazy. Like you don't really see that kind of transformation. And he and VanVleet and Brooks deserve a lot of credit for that.
And then the last one, we'll just go back to offense here. Everybody knows the Indiana Pacers have the best offense ever, 123 offensive rating. They're the most fun, exciting team. But who's the second best offense, you might ask? The Philadelphia 76ers, 121.3 offensive rating. You think they're a defensive team? No, they're an offensive juggernaut this season.
With Embiid and Tyrese Maxey just putting up points over and over again, and Tobias Harris just getting on fire. Oh, wait, no, he's not. But other than Tobias Harris, like they got a lot of really good offensive players and a lot of great talent on that team. Yeah. Nick Nurse doing stuff in Philadelphia, huh?
Doing stuff, man. I mean,
I like their dribble handoff offense. It looks good.
Philadelphia has some tests coming up, but they have looked good so far.
It's really hard not to have an elite offense when you have Joel Embiid.
I say they have a test coming up. They've got Detroit tomorrow. That's not they have Detroit for the second time this week.
Doesn't Detroit have the hardest remaining schedule in the league? They might not ever win a game. That's true.
They don't have Detroit on the schedule.
Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Every dayers, make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, Odyssey, and wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel.